In this video, I'm going to go over a few of the basic chart functions that you have in Google Sheets. It's going to cover bar and column charts, pie charts, line graphs, and scatter plots. If you're a higher level math person, you might want to hang out until you get to the scatter plots. I'm going to show you a couple of cool tricks. This is just going to go into the basics of setting them up and editing them, and some of the other types of charts that you can do are amazing, but probably require their own videos. Alright, so I have some data in my spreadsheet set up for all the different types of charts. I'm going to show you what all of the different ones might look like. So I'm going to start with the bar or column. So to use this one, I'm going to select some data that I want to do in a bar or column chart. I'm going to go to Insert and then down to Chart. So here what happens first is Google makes some recommendations for you. They like to say, we think we know what you want to do with this data, so here are some options. So you can go through and look at any of these, and they may or may not meet your needs. If you go over to Chart Types, you have a few more options. This allows you to select any chart type you want. The ones that you can use will be in color. The ones that don't match your data will be grayed out. So I do know that I want to use a bar chart. I can do the columns or the bars. Either one is going to have a lot of the same options with it. A couple of things you can do on this particular page is you can switch your rows and columns if you have things set up horizontally versus vertically. You can also choose to turn off some of your headers, so if I don't want to see that calorie label, I can take that off. You can also choose to use column A as labels or not. This is something that makes a difference, especially in line graphs, so I'll show you that when I do the line graph. Now, this is the fun part, you can do some customization. You go over to customization, it allows you to change things for your chart right away before you even make it. So you can alter the title and your legend. If you don't like a legend, you can always say none. You have all sorts of font options here that are pretty similar to any font options you would see. You also have a couple of features in these column and bar charts, like stacking your bars and comparing them. When you scroll down a little bit further, you get to the axis. So each axis can be edited separately. So I can edit my horizontal axis and I can edit my left vertical axis. I'm going to click on left vertical for this one because there's a couple of interesting changes we can do. Google makes predictions for you about what numbers to use on the side. However, you can create your own boundaries. Maybe I want the minimum to be 0, but the maximum to be 200, even though that doesn't work very well for my data. I'm going to try it, right? And it will just scale your data appropriately. You can also choose whether or not you want to have more or less grid lines. Right now there are 5 grid lines. I could say, well, I only want 2 grid lines, and it will only do 2 for me for those major ones. Auto is what Google suggests. You can also add in minor grid lines, and you can change the colors of those. Here's where you can also change the number format. So that means if you want the numbers to come out differently than they are in your spreadsheet, you can choose to customize that. You can also change your scale if you're dealing with a log scale or some other type of power of 10. And you can also change the color of your graph as well as move your axes around. So I would like my fruit graph to be green. That changes my columns to green. So those are most of the options that you have for this type of chart. Once you click Insert, it's going to insert your chart over the rest of your data. It's going to live on top of your sheet, not within a cell in your sheet. What's very cool here is that if you click on it, I'm in editing mode right now, I have the pencil selected, I can do almost all of those edits that I mentioned earlier by just clicking on various components of my chart. I can change what the things say if I want to add a unit in there. I can also change the angle of my words. I can even change the color if I decided that I did not like that green. I want to go to orange. There we go. I can change the axis to be on the other side. I can also choose to add a value to each one, so if it adds in the particular number associated with each fruit. Now, once you have your chart ready to use, see, I can even change the background if I want. Once you have your chart ready to use, you can click View Mode to see what it would look like. This allows you to not get those edits to pop up. You can also use this drop-down arrow to get to a few other cool options. Advanced Edit opens up the editing window that we saw earlier. You can delete your chart. You can download it as an image. This allows a download to happen and it'll save to your downloads folder. You can publish the chart, which means it's going to be a web page and that you can share that URL and then people aren't looking at your spreadsheet. You can also copy it and you can move it to its own sheet. I'm going to show you that one. What that does is that makes a new sheet in my workbook file that has the chart very large. Again, this is useful for certain types of information. So that's how to use columns or bars. I'm going to add in, I'll show you the next one, which is a pie chart. A lot of the options are the same, but there are a couple of special ones, so I wanted to show you all the different types. For a pie chart, you can insert your chart. There's also a quick button if you don't want to go to insert. And it's going to give me my options at the beginning. They do have this pie one ready to go for me, but if I go into chart types, I can select more specifically what kind of pie chart I might want. I can do one with the donut hole, or I can do a 3D version. I'm going to choose the basic one for now and go into customization. Much of the customization is exactly the same, so I'm just going to scroll down until it gets different. The slice. Since this is a pie chart, it has slices. You can change that to have different things in it. If I want to have the value in it as opposed to the percentage, I can have that show up. I can also edit the font and so on. Here, if I just chose a regular pie chart but changed my mind, I want to have a hole in the middle, I can choose how large that hole is going to be. I can also choose to make it 3D if I wanted to. You can't do donut holes in 3D. And maximize. Maximize you can do with any chart, and that just takes away all of the extras and shows you your chart very large. If you go down a little bit more, you can edit your individual series. So if I want mint chip to actually be the green one, and I want cookies and cream to be gray, I can change all of those things right here before I even insert my chart. Now, once your chart is inserted, you have all of the same options. If you're in edit mode, which means the pencil is selected, you can click on all the various components and change them. You can also choose to copy it, publish it, and so on and so forth, just like we did with the other one. All right, I'm going to delete that one. And I got 2 more to go. Line graph. The line graph is something I use a lot as an algebra teacher. I'm going to select my data and insert the chart here. Now this one has some special things that you need to do to it. So right now, if I were to click on line, it's giving me 2 lines. It's giving me a line for the input numbers, and it's giving me a line for the output numbers. But since I know that this is a linear equation, I actually want to check my use column G as labels. Use row 2 as headers is up to you. Use column G as labels lets me make the graph be an XY graph, so you can see that this is following those data points that are on the graph. Just like before, you can go into customize and you can customize those things. Again, there's some specifics for each type of graph, but more often than not, most of it is going to be the same. I can change the line thickness since it is a line graph. If I wanted it to be a little bit bigger. And I can also add in trend lines for this one. Not going to add in a trend line since this is a line graph. I'll add in a trend line for the scatter plot and show you how to do that. Insert, and same options apply. Alright, so that's 3 of the big 4. Coming up on the 4th one now. Scatter plots. I'm going to select my data for the scatter plot, and I'm going to insert that chart. So right away it gives me a recommendation of a scatter plot, and I'm okay with that, so I can go straight to customization. I'm going to stick with most of the things that it recommended, but I am going to scroll down to the bottom, and I am going to look at the trend line. What's very cool is that they've recently updated it to do more than just linear and exponential. So here I have a linear trend line, and it shows up there. Once you select a trend line, you can choose to have it labeled. One great thing is to have it use the equation so you can actually see the equation it's using. You can also show the correlation. So here I have r squared is 0.554. That's not very good. And you can change how thick the line is and how transparent the line is. Now, this linear one, maybe I don't like it. I want to try an exponential. I can do an exponential. This one's probably a little bit better based on what my r squared is. And I could also choose to use a polynomial. When you select polynomial, you can also select the degree. So maybe I want to have a quartic polynomial. There we go. Or I can just choose the 2, which is going to give me a quadratic. Insert my graph, and we're good to go. Now, before I end this video, I wanted to show you one last cool trick. When I clicked on the drop-down arrow earlier, one of the options was to copy the chart. I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to go over to a document. Now I'm going to paste in my chart. And it gives me a little warning. It says, do you want to link the chart to the spreadsheet? This means if you link it, that I can go in and I can edit the data and it's going to be a live graph. If I don't link it, it's going to be a static image, so any changes I make to the information doesn't change what shows up. I like to have it linked because I might want to change it. So that means when I click on it, I can open up the sheet for it. And also, if I know that the sheet's been edited, I can update my particular chart. I'll go more into that stuff in another video about using charts in docs and slides, but this was just a quick overview of what those 4 main chart types are.